The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
It's a brand new week and it's a brand new show. You found us here. It is Wooden Sticks on the Talk North Podcast Network. And we are recording from the Aquarius Home Services studio. Looking forward to putting the final touches on the National Hockey League season. I'm on record. I picked the Vegas Golden Knights. That pick was incorrect. I got to tip my hat to Rod the Bod, Brindamore, and Carolina. They were better when it mattered most. And I think the Freddie Anderson thing that he got nicked up, banged up, whatever you want to call it, and all of a sudden Bussy comes in and that's the real story for me. Like, just an incredible finish that he got to play in the final 3.5 games and was brilliant in most of them, including Game 7 where he pitched the shutout, and seeing his family in the crowd. It's kind of what it's all about, right? And as I said a couple weeks ago, I didn't have a dog in the fight here. I don't dislike either one of these teams. I don't really like either one of these teams. I'm happy that there was a Minnesota connection with Mikey Riley, Keandre Miller, and Jackson Blake. That's really cool. You know, we've had Lee Smith on the show here. I'm a dear friend of mine, longtime high school hockey coach over at Eden Prairie, and he had a state championship that he won with Jackson Blake. And I remember watching that. It was either right during or right after COVID. And we were in St. Paul doing some work with the Wild and got to see the Eden Prairie Eagles play, and Blake was such an incredible player, and he still is. I mean, guy gets a lot done out there, man. Kind of like Jared Spurgeon. You know, never doubt a guy that size that can play at the National Hockey League level, because, you know, Jackson Blake made the point in one of his interviews during the Cup, like, listen, he goes, I've been small all my life. Like, this is nothing new for me. I'll figure it out. And boy, he and the Canes certainly did. So tip of the hat to them. I tweeted this out at Gorgomatic21. For a good follow on X or Twitter, but the Wild open up as the 5th betting choice in the betting market. The new betting market is up for next year's Stanley Cup. The Oilers are actually lower than the Wild, which I find preposterous, but the Wild are 12-1, Edmonton's 11-1. It's all the usual suspects, but my point is the Wild are so close right now. I'm so excited to see what Billy Guerin's going to do here this summer, into the draft, into training camp, and then beyond up to the trade deadline. They've got just a great core right now. They've got depth. We talked about the McCarron extension last week on the show, so a lot of positivity there. But the Carolina Hurricanes, first time in 20 years, take down the Stanley Cup, and overall was a really fun Cup to watch. It's just going to be a lot more fun when our team is in it, and that's what we're trying to get, and that's why we have this show to hopefully keep talking about some of the cool things going on with the local team here in St. Paul, and I think there's a lot of good things to come here this summer that will impact the team next year. Today on the show, though, we're going to focus more on high school hockey, and I mentioned Lee Smith being a longtime friend of mine. This next guest of ours is in that same category. His name is Ken Pauly. He's been at Benilde St. Margaret's for 35 years, multiple state championships, has coached some of the best players in the state, and just a really cool conversation coming today about where kids are in 2026. You know, Ken got his start in the early, and I mean very early 1990s, and it was a different world. And so we're going to have that conversation today. I think you'll be, as a hockey fan, very entertained by some of the directions we go. So stay tuned for the great Ken Pauly today on Wooden Sticks. Before we get to Ken, though, I got to thank the people that make this show happen. And I'll start with John Schweitz and Minnesota Masonic Charities. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz. One of our newest partners is Lucy Nicotine Pouches. My friends have been all in on Lucy lately, and the good news is it's never been easier to try because Lucy is now available at Quick Trip. They've tried just about every pouch out there, and Lucy has become the one they keep coming back to. Great flavor, great strength options, and a pouch that actually holds up. You can get Lucy in mint, apple ice, mango, espresso, berry citrus, and apple cider. The flavor lasts, and if you want to test the lineup, start with the 6-pack. The game changer is Lucy Breakers. Every pouch has a burstable flavor capsule. Bite into it for an extra hit of flavor and a smooth kick that just keeps going. My friends call Lucy top tier, and they recommend it to everyone. Now you can give them a try. Get 20% off your first order when you buy online at lucy.co/woodensticks with the promo code woodensticks. That's lucy.co/woodensticks with the promo code woodensticks. And if you don't want to wait, check out their store locator to find where you can pick up Lucy at your nearest Quick Trip today. Here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of a legal age, and every customer is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. How about the good people at Onyx Fish and Onyx Maps?
If you like to hunt or fish, I highly recommend checking out onxmaps.com. Check it out for onxmaps.com/hunt or onxmaps.com/fish. Stop fishing the same lake because it's the only one you know. Onyx Fish lets you filter lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potential so you can make a smarter call on where to spend your Saturday before you ever hitch up the trailer. It's only $34.99 for the year, less than a spool of good braid. Download Onyx Fish on the App Store or go to onxmaps.com/fish and fish smarter this season.
And, of course, our great friends over at Lexus of Wyzetta and Maplewood. Ken Pauly next here on Wooden Sticks. We're back on Wooden Sticks, as always, recording from the Aquarius Home Services studio. Always fun to have friends on the show, and this one is a longtime friend of mine from Benilde St. Margaret's, the head boys hockey coach he is, Ken Pauly. Ken, thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me. Always good to see you. So this will be fun.
Well, and we were talking as we were getting set up to do the show today about how long you've been at Benilde, 35 years, and it goes back to the early 90s. And I look back at how long ago it was when I was a boys high school hockey coach. It led me to meet LaPanta, which eventually led me to get the job in 06 working with the Minnesota Wild. But how do you survive 35 years in high school hockey? I've been there. I know what it's like to be a high school hockey coach. You know, the parents, the kids, the pressure. How have you survived 35 years?
Well, again, there's a lot of luck involved because you kind of think, and from your coaching days early on, Kevin, I probably stepped on a few landmines, and I was and again, I'm very fortunate to survive maybe some bad mistakes, but I had a terrific president at the school, Jim Hamburg, at that time, and I always had a great athletic director, and those were guys. I took the job when I was 25 years old, and again, when you're 25, you think you know a lot, you don't know a dang thing. And so I made my mistakes, but they allowed me to grow and not make my mistakes turn into basically a career-ending mistake. It's not like anything major on, but sometimes you see guys get run out. So I think it really starts with a good foundation, good leadership, good mentors. So I was really fortunate on the front end to have a great athletic director, basically great president, great principal, and I've been fortunate for the majority of my career with Jerry Pettinger as my athletic director. So it really starts with that. I've seen a lot of good people get run out, to be candid.
Yep.
But I've had that great support, and and knowing what your values are and finding the right community. Benilde St. Margaret and I were a good fit. Some people there may not have thought so early on, but it worked out.
It certainly did. And in your eyes, like going back to when you got started, let's go back to the early 1990s compared to where we are in now 2026. What are some of the biggest differences in the landscape of high school hockey then as opposed to now? As I asked the question, I think of the obvious one, cell phones and internet, because honestly, when you got started, it was a different world. So how much different is it right now coaching in 26 compared to when you started?
Yeah, they're definitely the attention spans aren't what they used to be, and and heck, I remember going to coaches clinics in Windsor and other places, and people talking about the pro and the college level, saying, it used to be, the coach come in and basically just say it, and that was like, you think of someone like Bobby Knight, the last of the great dictator coaches. It's like you just said it and you did it. That's it. And, at that level, they talked about kids saying, well, at that time, it's like you kind of have to prove yourself to them before they will listen to what you have to say. And that all that stuff creeps down eventually, Kevin, to us. And so, these kids, they come basically have, when I started, it's like, hey, if you took a coach bus, that was like, oh, really? What a great thing. And these kids have been in coach buses since they're mites and squirts now, so it's like, it doesn't move the needle. So there's kind of a part of, they don't, Wally Chapman, I don't know if Wally and I are pretty good friends. He was a coach at Breck. Sure. He was a great Gopher hockey player. And Wally and I had some great battles at Breck. And Wally made a comment for me once, say, yeah, we're getting older, but the kids are staying the same age. And those things, and kids being 16, 17 and dumb because the frontal association area hasn't been fully networked, that hasn't changed. But Kevin, you hit it on the head. It's like the attention spans. But I also would say the other challenge, Kevin, is the outside voices in these kids' heads have just magnified. It used to be, your coach, you got into coaching because you loved the game, you liked the competition, you wanted to be a mentor. And now these kids have, advisors and trainers and all these, and at the high school level, right? The high school exam levels, they have all that stuff now. So now there's a lot more competing voices. Not just for their attention, but in kind of shaping them as players as well. So you're competing with a lot of outside forces. And I would say the other issue is with those outside forces, the pressure for the kids to remain in high school. And Kevin, you and I have talked about this, several times over the last few years. Like, kids leaving high school hockey. That's only intensified. That hasn't gone the other way.
And I wonder about that because when you have the wealth of experience, Ken, that you bring to the table, how does that conversation work when you see a really talented kid that's getting pulled in a couple different directions and has the opportunity to go play juniors when they're maybe 15, 16, 17 years old, knowing that, 8 of 10 of these stories ends up on the wrong side, right? Like you always hear about the 1 or 2 where they light it up at the USHL, they end up playing D1 hockey and everything's cool. Yeah. But you don't hear about the 8 that don't make it. And for you as a coach, they're asking your opinion and clearly you want the guy on your team, but you want to do what's best for the kid. How does that conversation go?
Yeah, I mean, again, you can have that conversation when you establish a relationship, right? And so how that conversation goes is they have to trust you. I mean, that's really the first, I think of the great Lou Holtz. Again, when I was coaching as a JV coach in the late 80s, you read every coaching biography. I remember Lou Holtz saying, there's 2 things a kid's going to ask, basically, can I trust you? And basically how you committed to excellence. And it's like, can I trust you means like they've actually gotten to know you and you've gotten to know them. And that they do believe that, like, that I trust that you, Ken Pauly, know what's going on, number one, and I trust that you're going to do what's best for me. And we have never held. I mean, listen, I would never want a kid on my team who I felt I was holding back. If it was time for him to move on, I would support him with that. And I'll use a real quick example for you there. We had Troy Riddle was a great player in the late 90s, and Troy won a state championship for us and won a couple of national titles for the Gophers as well. And Troy left his senior year. And I actually went and watched him play in Des Moines a couple of times. I supported that. I think that time was probably a good move for him. But I do think that's a rare burden. Kevin, you hit it on the head. For one or two guys, it probably makes sense. I mean, the whole Ann Arbor and the development program, pretty tough for a kid to say no to that. I mean,
Yep.
come on, let's face it. And so when a kid gets that invite, you say, God bless you and good luck. But there's other things that present themselves as opportunities that aren't opportunities. And a kid is mortgaging their high school experience, they're mortgaging the power of the present for and turning themselves into a commodity very early on. And I do think if I'll use the word, I don't want to use the word tragedy because I'd like to save that for real tragedies, but I think I'll use it just for the sake of the conversation. I think the tragedy is that these kids, they make these decisions and it doesn't work out. And very early on, when I was working with the Coach Association as a president and with promotions, I got really frustrated with, the paper and internet sources saying, "Why don't you guys put front and center? How about some articles about how it didn't work out?" Because there's a lot more of those, and I think we're just going to see that increase, quite frankly.
I think the message that gets lost, and I've seen this from all different perspectives, back when I was coaching and now as a broadcaster, and from talking to guys that are in the league that played high school hockey at this level and played here locally, if you're good enough, if you're that guy, you're going to get there no matter what, no matter when you leave high school, no matter when you get your junior experience. If you're a good enough hockey player, you're going to end up being Keandre Miller, Jackson Blake. We just watched them in the Stanley Cup. Obviously, Brock Faber. The list goes on, right? And I think that message sometimes gets lost because we live in a world where we need instant gratification. Everything is right at our fingertips. We have to have the result now. And I think it's really hard for kids and their parents, frankly, to understand that it's a journey. And if you're good enough, you're going to end up in the league that you need to be in. But I think a lot of times that gets lost.
Yeah, for sure it gets lost because everyone thinks they are the next Brock Faber and the next Jackson Blake. And the thing is that, now the challenge is you've got these AAA options and stuff, and kids are leaving, their junior year. And a guy like Faber, I mean, he went to the development program. Remember, Jackson Blake went juniors, but he came back to Eden Prairie and won a state championship, I believe, in his junior year.
Did.
And he actually, I think, a great story. And Paul Osby, I think, basically it told me that I think Blake actually played some JV games when he came back at Eden Prairie because of the high school league's antiquated rules, which is a problem. And Jackson Blake said, "I don't care. I'll play." I think he played JV a half a dozen games before he was eligible to varsity his junior year. One of the best players in the country.
Wow.
And it's like those kids, whether it's Faber or Blake or Condre, but you think about the Flyers. The Flyers had Sealer, Alex Bump, and Cates, I think, are basically around that roster.
Yep.
I could be wrong. At least two of those kids finished their senior year. I think three of them did.
You're right.
And so I don't know what is it about that story that people aren't buying into. Alex Bump. I mean, look at the state tournament. You covered that. The state tournament, the goals he got in the state tournament.
So cool.
He's playing for the Flyers. I think he won a national championship with Western Michigan. What is it about that story that people don't want to embrace? That part, Kevin, I don't understand. I think Cates played in the state tournament for Stillwater. Sealer's an Eden Prairie kid. I don't know why people are in a hurry to not tell those stories and identify with that.
Yeah, I talk to kids all the time, and I'm lucky enough to speak at banquets and, whether it's youth hockey, I've had a chance to speak to Bantams and Pee-wees. I'm like, listen, when you get to high school, some of you players are going to be elite players. You're going to be looking here. You're going to be looking there. And I said, I can tell you this from relationships I have fostered, going back to Neil Broughton, who played in the 80s at Roseau and did everything from the gold medal, the Miracle on Ice, to Stanley Cups, the whole thing. You will never be able to replace the time you get playing high school hockey in the state of Minnesota with a chance to go to that state tournament. Trust me when I tell you this. Don't take my word because I got to do it, but I haven't played in the NHL. These guys have all played at the highest level, and they all say that week in St. Paul is one of the greatest weeks of their lives. Don't lose that opportunity. I think kids need to hear that.
They do, and I think they need to know the high school experience. I think the state tournament is the crown jewel, and we've been fortunate enough to win it 3 times, but we haven't been back there for quite some time. You dying to being our sex has something to do
That's
with
tough.
That. But again, sometimes I think that it's just. But the high school experience, I mean, you think, and I'll tell you, Kevin, I might be the only one of the few coaches remaining that remembers watching you play at Burnsville.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, but you think about that, Kevin. Yeah, winning the state championship for Burnsville, I believe you guys won it. You were in it for sure.
Did.
Yeah, you won it, and that's incredible. But I'm sure that entire journey is something that's probably at your age is still so special to you. The regular season, the section tournament games, all those things, and I had a kid play for me. You may know him, Cooper Gay, played for St.
Yep.
Thomas, and he signed as a free agent in the Avalanche system. And I don't think Cooper would mind me telling the story, but it's like we had lost a heartbreaking section final. We lost on a penalty shot, to Blake. I think it's the only time it's ever happened. And
Wow.
for a state tournament, we lost in overtime on a penalty shot. I'm still bitter. But anyhow, but I still remember Cooper. And we go back to the locker room. And, that kind of thing's funny. It's like there's all this talk about in the state tournament, these kids lose the state championship. They're so upset. Cry me a river. Try losing in section championships. That's where the real pain is.
100%.
It's not in the state tournament. It's in sections. And I remember we go back to the locker room, you say your goodbyes, but those are the bonds that are made, Kevin, that you're talking about. And I remember Cooper, as he's walking out of our locker room, I could hear him. He's walking, talking, and as he's opening the door, because he knows once he goes through that door, he ain't coming back in again the same way.
Oh.
And I heard him say, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave as he walked out.
Oh.
And of course he goes on. I mean, he played USHL, did a great job for Fargo, was a captain at St. Thomas, but he knows, and you ask Cooper's like, he's not going to mortgage that. They're just a bond. Listen, it's the last time. Here's something about high school hockey. Whether you make the state tournament or not, sometimes I think we oversell the state tournament because not everyone makes it. They just don't. But the truth is this. It's the last time you're going to play where it's competitive and people actually care about you. Because honestly, after you leave here, I'm not saying junior coaches don't care. I know a lot of good junior coaches, great guys, college coaches, but it's a business. You know it and I know it. It's a business. You are now a commodity. And high school is the last place where that's not the case.
You're 100% right. And I played for a guy in Des Moines in the USHL named Jim Wiley. God rest his soul. Ended up being a coach in the NHL with the San Jose Sharks. Mm-hmm. And he explained that to me. I got down there and I had no idea. My first time out of the house, right? I've been coddled all my life living in the suburbs of Burnsville. And I'm down there in 1986 in training camp in these Army barracks. And I'm getting my ass kicked and I'm struggling. And the coach calls me in and says, listen, this isn't high school hockey anymore. Mom and dad aren't here. And frankly, your coaching staff's here to coach you. We're not here to baby you. And you got to figure this out. And he was right. At the time, I thought he was an ass. I'm like, who is this guy? But in looking back now as an adult, I'm like, he was clearly thinking of me. I needed to figure things out. And that was a very impactful year for me. But again, I was out of high school. I was 18 years old. I was ready for that. I couldn't imagine, looking back, Ken, I couldn't imagine doing that at 16 or 17. I was ill-prepared at 18. I would not have been anywhere close to prepared at those ages, and I kind of weathered the storms and ended up having a good year. It was a great league and a great opportunity, but the business was simple. He needed to get my butt in gear because they had picked me at a high spot, and they needed me to perform, and it had nothing to do with him caring about me. I was a stat and a number on that roster that needed to perform. And I think kids don't really understand that after high school, you're not surrounded by that great little bubble.
No, you're not. And I'm glad you brought that up because I'm certainly in no way saying that a college coach or a junior coach doesn't care about you. But it is a business and they pay their mortgage with those jobs and the rest of it. And they don't have time to coddle you. And it's like, listen, it's time to grow up. And, and basically high school is the last place where, believe me, it's like we cut kids in high school too. I mean, you can't escape the hard realities of life no matter what. But I just don't know why, and I know you're a father too, Kev. It's like, I just can't imagine, my kids are in their 20s now. And I just can't imagine wanting to get rid of them early. It happens fast enough. Why would you want them out of your house? I don't get it.
Yeah.
And you know what?
I'm with you.
You also need some place. Think about home. It's like home is what you go back to. And if you're constantly moving on, where do you have to go back to? Jackson Blake just won a Stanley Cup. I'm sure he will bring that Stanley Cup back to the Eden Prairie community. Nick Leddy won a Stanley Cup, I think, with Chicago. He brought it back, to that community. He's got it someplace to bring it back to. If you keep moving on, where are you bringing it back to? Where's your home?
So true. And, I've I've talked to some cup winners about that moment when they bring it back to their youth hockey rink where they spent all those years into high school hockey, and Nick Leddy being one of the guys I've had that conversation with. I just can't imagine not having a home base. And I know it's a different world now, and I get it. There are so many different opportunities. The world has changed in terms of hockey, but I do want to focus a little bit on specific seasons. And you've mentioned the multiple state championships. I vividly remember your 2012 team, and there's a couple of layers, and there's a lot, I'm sure, from your perspective. But let's first talk about Jack Jablonski, because a huge part of that season and where you guys ended up, and certainly a traumatic experience within the season. I've gotten to know Jabs really well. He's in the broadcast world now, and we connect probably on a monthly basis about how he's doing. What was that experience like for you as a head coach, trying to manage all those emotions of those young people?
Yeah, it's it's like you whenever you're in a time like that, no one's thinking. A lot of it's just it becomes a day by day thing, and it is. And believe me, I've been asked that question a lot. I think at that time, when we started the question saying, "Hey, why is it that basically I've been in the last 38 years? Well, why were we able to survive that 2012 season? Not just survive it, but thrive as a team." And and again, it gets to the people that were around us. Our hats off to, we were blessed to have a parent community that was absolutely pretty gifted people and supportive. And without those people, we would not have been able to make it through. I had great assistant coaches and Tom Klein and John Russo and Chris McGowan. So I had a lot of great people around me. But I would think that the thing is, and that's the thing about the hockey community, Kevin. It's like when things happen in the hockey community, they really, it is a tight knit group. And you really felt, you just felt that support. And so just that support that came in from everywhere. I got called from Jerry York in Boston College and Jack Parker, obviously, what he dealt with in, BU. So all over the place, I was getting support. So I don't want to make it too long because it's a long answer. But the truth is this, is that there was two paths that we had, right? It's like I still had a team that had to play, and we had the Jablonski path. Those really were two separate things, but they were going to intersect. They were constant, and sometimes they weren't always. Again, what was in the Jack interest wasn't necessarily the team interest. I might want that to sound the wrong way, but it's like if you're trying to. So, but I was able. One thing I was able to navigate both of those paths with the help of a lot of people around me. And Kevin, I think again, I think about it. I thought too much about the pressure, but you can't think about those kids. That might have been one of the most watched state tournaments ever, because a lot of people didn't give a rat's ass about hockey, but they cared about that human interest story. And so the kids, so you got the pressure that, and actually to be able to win it, a situation like that, basically the intensity of that, was amazing. And, I'm not to get too preachy, but, I'm a man of faith. I'm a devout Roman Catholic. You rely on God and prayer, and not everyone's in that place, but I certainly am. And I certainly, again, you better, when the storms come, Kevin, you better have a foundation. And, and we had a foundation. I think that's why, and that starts with faith. And I'm not saying that every kid on the team had faith in Christ or anything like that. I'm not getting, but the coaching staff sure did. And I'm telling you, I don't know where we'd be without that. So I think that the foundation of that, because even when we had to deliver the news of that Jack's condition, because we were still hopeful that when the swelling went down, that the fracture wouldn't have been again, every fraction of an inch is so critical in terms of movement. And it became very apparent that he had this was a big problem, and we had to, we gave that news in the chapel at Benilde St. Margaret. We didn't give it in a lunchroom. We didn't give it in a classroom. We gave it in a chapel. And, wow. And that's, I don't think you can, I actually think that's the piece that's probably not talked about enough, quite honestly.
Well, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. I was at Mariucci Arena I love section finals. You hit the nail on the head earlier, Ken. There's nothing bigger or better for me as a hockey fan than a section final. And you guys were pretty significant underdogs that night against Minnetonka. Everybody that I talked to in the hockey community was picking Minnetonka, and I mean everybody. And I'm down there. They were good. They had Vinny Lettieri. They were a really, really good hockey team, and they were playing this big sheet ice. And I'll never forget watching your team come on the ice that night, and Jabs is at the entryway, kind of by the Zamboni door, in his wheelchair, and one by one, your players came by. Some would stop and get like right in his face and talk. Some would just get a fist bump. I'm getting goosebumps as I talk about it now, 14 years later, but I'm telling you, as I sat in the press box that night and watched down below, I looked at my buddies, and I said, there's no way this team is losing tonight. And if I recall, and again, my memory isn't what it used to be, it wasn't close. I want to say you guys beat them maybe 5-1 that night. And you guys, it looked like a team that had jets attached to their skates. What are your memories there?
Yeah. We took it over, and it's, and that's the thing when you look at, I go to a lot of coaches conferences and people talk about what brings a team together. And I never wanted to treat Jack, and I still talk to Jabs quite a bit, and I never wanted to treat him like, a rabbit's foot or anything like that, because to me, that would belittle what he's going through. But the reality is we had a pretty dang good team, but all of a sudden we had something to rally around. Mm-hmm. And coaches always try to create, you remember as a coach, you're always trying to create a villain. They don't think we can do this. They don't think, you're always trying to, but here you have, and something like this is either going to bring you together and you're going to do something incredibly special, or it's going to crush you. And that is, and that team, that there was something else inside of them that night, and you can sit there and I felt it too, Kevin. It was just like kind of once we get, and there's little things that happen. I mean, we got some fortunate bounces. Armstrong upset Eden Prairie, and Eden Prairie was a pretty good team. So we had to play Armstrong in the semifinals rather than Eden Prairie. So, and again, and Armstrong was good, but they jumped up and bit Lee's team in the quarters. I think Lee was pretty banged up and the kids were sick. And so Armstrong caught him on a good night, but that's a fortunate draw. You can't, I'm sorry. That's a fortunate.
It helps.
And so there's little things that happen. You know what? It might, it might be in the cards. It might be in the cards. But you could feel that. That's the thing. That's that support and that momentum. And I think one thing that we did do, Kevin, is that with all the media attention we had, Pam Lowaji is a great reporter at Star Tribune, was embedded with us, and David LeVake, who's obviously suffering right now with a horrible ailment, was with us quite a bit too. Mm-hmm. I didn't ban cameras or anything like that. We embraced it. We said, forget it. Screw this. It's like, we're going to embrace the spotlight, because we're going to embrace the spotlight. We're not going to protect the kids. No, we're going to embrace it. Whoever wants in, they're in. They're part of their journey. They're going to support us. We were all in on that. Pam was with us every step of the way. Then we get the state tournament, and of course, the high school league in its infinite wisdom thought they were going to protect us from the media. The media was with us the entire frickin' time. And so that, and I'll tell you what, we said, I felt, there's this wave of support coming. And I just felt like when you're going through that sort of suffering, the sort of suffering Jack was going through and the kids were going through, you accept the help, you embrace the help, you don't run from it. And so we actually embraced the media, quite honestly, not out of ego, out of freaking necessity. And right. So I'm telling you, the bigger the stage got, the better we felt every step of the way. It's just the way it was.
And then in terms of individual performances at the tournament, I go back to our teams in the mid-'80s. Scott Bloom took over both the 85 and 86 state tournaments. He was a man possessed. I think of the tournament that Ken Jernander had. Dave Spihar comes to mind, one of the all-time greats with the triple hat tricks. But what Grant Bessie did for your team in that tournament, and if I recall, 5 goals in the championship game, I think 2 or 3 were shorthanded.
Yeah, hat trick.
We're in your 3 of them. It's incredible. Like that's never going to be duplicated in your eyes. That singular performance by Bessie, and I've mentioned some of the other big tournaments that some of these great players have had. Where does, in your eyes, Bessie rank up?
Well, I can't speak to the great Henry Boucher because I didn't see him play. Or may have seen anyone, but in my modern memory, I don't know if anyone's topped it. I mean, to not only to do it, but to do it under those conditions, I think is what's extraordinary. And remember the North Star coach Pierre Paget?
Oh yeah,
yeah. I remember one of the first clinics I went to. He saw in a power play, and I love Pierre goes. The thing is, coach's dream and player make coach dream come true, and it's like, and that's like, whether you like it or not, there's so much that's out of your control as a coach. And now it's like, and someone like Bessie steps up, and you can say, I could sit there and take credit. I'm taking none. It's him, right? Spihar stepped up for Duluth East. Bloom stepped up, for Burnsville. On any given night, it's a kid that they meet the moment, right? The great player. That's what's exciting about the game is who will meet the moment. Sometimes you meet the moment, and sometimes you don't. And that's what I love about sport. That it mimics life that way. It's like, and even in the disappointment, you have to deal with that as well, because that's part of it too. But
sure.
we all like winning when we meet the moment, but Grant meant the moment. And Bess, he actually helps coach on our staff now, and we laugh about it because Bessie goes, yeah, I never scored any goals in section playoff games. I said, yeah, I was aware of that.
He didn't?
No. He actually had one the next year. We were in the section championship and it got waved off, which was still a BS call, by the way. And we made it 2-0. And so he had that waved up, but he never scored in the section championship game, and he didn't score in the section. I don't think he scored in the section semifinals either.
Crazy. That tournament, I can remember it.
Right? Because it's locked down. Everyone's zeroed in on him.
Oh.
Everyone's zeroed in on him, So
what type of coach is he? Because, the best players don't always make the best coaches. And I did see that he was on your staff, and I thought that's pretty cool, right? Like,
yeah.
the experience that he brings to the table. What type of coach is he?
He's great one-on-one. I mean, again, Best is like, I have a few different assistants around. It's fun. Danny Charleston, who was a former player, he won a state championship for us too. Danny's a great coach. But Grant's kind of better one-on-one. He's always that cool kid, but I think it's just, but the kids love having him around, and when he talks, they listen. But it gets back, it all comes full circle. It's like, a lot of these kids don't remember what the hell he did, But they know, he's a good player at Wisconsin, stuff like that. And so just one-on-one, Grant's still pretty reserved guy, but he's got some good knowledge. And so whenever, the more connections you can make with kids one-on-one, he's very good one-on-one with the kids.
Well, when you've won as much as you have, Ken, the state tournaments we've talked about, but the amount of games, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of hockey games you've won. Are there certain things you try to replicate, even though the kids are different every year and we're in a different era now? We've talked about all this, but do you try to duplicate certain things? Is there a part of your game plan during training camp, early part of the season, rituals during the game? Like, how much of it is habit and how much of it is kind of an evolution as you kind of read off the kids?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of things you try to duplicate, but sometimes the player has a lot to say about what you can duplicate. But
right.
I think you're feeling when you ask that question, kind of the first thing that popped in my mind is kind of a style of play. Everyone wants to have a calling card, and that right from the standpoint, we basically want kids to have fun playing this game and to free them up to play, and basically and I think that's one of the reasons why we've had a great deal of success of kids moving on to college hockey from BSM. We may not always go to Michigan's or the U, but they go to, and Kevin, there's not a lot of D1 hockey schools, and
right.
Benilde is consistently ranked in the top, sometimes 5 top 10 in terms of moving kids on to college. Both the women's and the men's program at BSM are very good at that. And I think it's because in terms of, we want to say, you never want yourself as a coach to be bigger than the game and what the kids, because these kids are 15 once, they're 16 once, they're 17 once. And I never want to take the fun out of it. I never want
Right.
to take the fun out of it. And I'm not saying it's not all sunshine, rainbows, and all that other stuff, but it's like I want my team playing with skill and with speed because I want these kids getting better, And at the end of the day, I just care about and I mean I'm not getting too much into the technical and other things about tracking the puck and things like that, but I want kids that care about each other. That's one thing. You're trying to build those relationships and that they care about it. Because if you care about each other, this is the great Herb Brooks. I coached with Jack. I don't know if you know Jack or not, but Jack.
Oh, yeah, I know Jack.
Jack was my high school coach for a year. I was at Wayzata. And Jack lasted 1 year and then he got fired. Jack was head coach and wasn't the greatest, but he's a great trainer and a great hockey guy, legend. And, but Herb Brooks was like very good friends with Jack. Herb Brooks would come and watch our games. We'd go out with Herb Brooks after a game. You think about this, right?
Wow.
Herb Brooks. And Herbie came, we always have a preseason meeting with our team. And I'm sure you've done the same thing with your kids too, right, Kevin? It's like, get together,
sure.
What we want to do, here are our goals, all that stuff. And so we had Herb flippin' Brooks come and speak to our kids, all right? And I thought, and he said, guys, he said, you will do well if you do one thing, and if you care. And that didn't seem real sexy to me. I was looking for something else, He says, you just have to care. And the more that sunk in, boy, is that true. It's like, do you care? Do you care about the game? Do you care about each other? Do you care about if you don't care, I can't work with you.
Not going to work.
What I think, right? We're talking about connection. You don't care about our relationship. You want to talk to your advisor. You don't care what I think. I can't work with you. And that's that trust. So I want them caring about each other, and that's kind of like the group I'm coming up this year because we may not be the most talented, but I think this group cares about each other, and so I feel like we have a chance. I think you have a group that cares about each other. I think you always have an opportunity.
And I love that you're already looking forward to next season because that tells me you've still got the passion and you're still right in the fight, right? You're already thinking about we're in the middle of summer, right? You just got done with the school year, you teach, you coach. You're like, oh, I'm on vacation now. But I love that coaches never really put it down. I never could and I never would. And I'm sure that you're the same way. It's
an addiction in a lot of ways. But but I just got back from Pittsburgh. I went to the NHL the Coaches Association puts on a global clinic, and I like to go to those like at least once every 3 or 4 years, and it's great because you get to sit down with. You have the online presentations kind of like we're doing here that you listen to, but then you go and spend all day and you sit at a table like 6, 7 other coaches who are junior coaches or whatever, and then these guys coaching the NHL level come to table for a half hour and you just have a free discussion.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like you're dealing with, oh gosh, you probably know his name, but the names escape me. But he won the Stanley Cup with the Vegas Golden Knights. He's a Boston Bruins coach. You may know his name. It's escaping
Cassidy?
me. Yes, Bruce Cassidy. He was terrific. He was terrific. And then, of course, and so you're able to just sit there and that's a nice way to kind of keep the juices flowing and keeping the ideas coming, and all. And Mike Pekka was there, and he spent a half hour. Yeah, so Pekka, Scotty Allen. I mean, it's like Hackstall, So it's really a great opportunity because you can just sit there all afternoon. You basically get exposed, and even a couple of the video analytic rats from Edmonton Oilers, who aren't big names, but these guys know their way around the analytics and all this other stuff. So it's just fun to to learn and all that. So yeah, so it was fun.
Very cool. All right, final segment, Coach. We're going to do a little thing we call the Hat Trick Hot Seat. These are 3 questions. You can't get them wrong. It just gives our listeners a chance to get to know you maybe a little bit away from the rink. I'll start with this one because this is, we're kind of roughly the same age. I want to know the first concert you attended. I want to know the venue of the concert and which band or musician did you go see when you went to your very first concert?
Oh, fantastic. It was the Commodores.
Yes,
and it was next to Met. Remember that supper club?
Yes, I do. I saw the Oak Ridge Boys there. It was right next to where the Mall of America is. Yes.
Yes, I saw the Commodores there. Lionel Richie.
Oh, they're coming back. I'm going to them later this month at Grand Casino Arena. They're probably not quite as full of energy as they were when you saw them.
No, they were
that's
great.
a great one.
I would like to say Phil Collins, but that was a couple years later.
Okay, which again, in his prime, as good as it gets, right? I love
Northrop.
a concert.
I saw him at Northrop, and there was like 3,000 people there.
Oh, God, that's so cool. Intimate setting. All right, next question is, if you were just going to be a hockey fan, a high school hockey fan, and there was one rink that you wanted to go watch a game in, no rooting interest, just you wanted as a hockey fan to go watch a high school game in a particular rink. Can't be your own rink where you play. It's got to be, somewhere else. Which rink are you going to go to and why?
Can I go back in time?
Absolutely.
Hibbing.
Oh,
I will go Hibbing in the 1970s.
Oh, great pick.
With great teams. And I want to see Dave Herbst play, because I know Dave Herbst play up there.
That'd be so cool. Pat Micheletti is a regular listener to the show, and I know he's blushing right now because when I was at Mounds View, Ken, in the mid to late 90s, they had a Christmas tournament up in Hibbing at the Hippodrome, and we would bring our team up for 3 days. I'd bring Mounds View up there to play, and Sammy's Pizza was a big part of it. The hotel right there down the road from the rink. I got to tell you, walking around that rink, so cool. The history, the atmosphere, like that is a spectacular place to play or to watch hockey.
I will say Grand Rapids is a close runner-up for me, though.
Oh,
I love this. Northern hockey is the best. It's part of the culture. If we lose that, we lose our culture.
Grand Rapids had the season tickets. I think they still do, where you actually can pick out your seats that you're going to be sitting in. And they're always, again, like you said, Northern hockey, it's the center of the community and everybody goes. Like that's just what they do. Fantastic.
Great people up there.
Yeah. All right. I don't even know if you're a big movie guy, but I'm a big movie guy. I don't know if you have a favorite movie or maybe you could come up with one, but if you're going to sit down later tonight and chill and watch one of your all-time favorite movies or actors, I guess, which movie you popping in?
Oh, so many. So many.
Hard to pick one, right?
Yeah, it is hard. Hoosiers.
Oh my God, you and I, that's my favorite. There it is.
Hoosiers.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's the coaching thing, right? With Gene Hackman.
I cry. Gene Hackman. At the end, when he says,
that's the best part.
I love you guys, I get chills.
Okay, this is eerie. And I'm not kidding you. I've had that question asked to me, and I give the answer the exact same way. If anyone's ever coached and you watch Hoosiers, and he's a hard ass the whole movie, right? Like he's a tough in-your-face, way of the highway guy. And at the end of the movie, when they're fading to black, they show the team picture in the gymnasium of this miraculous team, and you can hear him say, I love you guys. And if you don't get choked up there, you're doing it wrong. Like that, to me, is the essence of making a connection with kids, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a counselor, whether you're a coach.
Yeah.
Like that movie, and again, I'm not even a basketball guy, Ken.
I know.
I don't care about basketball, but that movie is still my all-time favorite movie because the story is great. It reminds me of the state tournament here with back when it was one class and you had all the little and the small and the big, and it resonates with me. And what ties it all together is Gene Hackman, that guy in that movie. So good.
It was so magical when I saw it the first time. I went back the next day and watched it again.
It's that kind of movie. And you know what? I've watched it recently. And, sometimes movies from that era, going back 30, 40 years, they don't stand the test of time. Because it's a timepiece, it does stand the test of time. It still works. And I recommend anyone that's listening that hasn't seen it, please pop it on. You will not regret watching Hoosiers.
I just tell you quickly, one thing about that, people talk about kids jumping around the schools. They were worried about Jimmy Chitwood going down the other school, too.
Yep. Jimmy Chitwood wasn't going to play. He was their best player. They have the big town meeting to remove the coach. I don't want to spoil the movie, but the bottom line is Jimmy got it. Like he understood what was going on, and it all worked out. And it was a great message to young people. Like there's your group, there's your teammates, there's your buddies. Go do something incredible. And I watch it at least once a year, and I tend to watch it during state tournament time because it does remind me so much of what we have here.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great. We're
Well,
the
John
same guy,
Stroh,
Gord. We're the same guy. I was a
we're
goalie.
the same guy.
You actually won. I didn't,
Well, but we were the same. We're the same. And John Stroh, our mutual good friend who
Yeah.
also listens to the show, wanted me to make sure I said hello to you today before we got off the air. And I just think, again, the connection you make, right? John still talks about his time with you at Benilde all these years later, ended up being the main Minnesota Wild TV producer for over 25 years. He's now moved on to MLB, but he's still doing hockey and baseball because he's one of the best at his craft in the country. And it all goes back to playing in your locker room.
That's pretty impressive. Stroh, he's great.
Stroh Diggs is the best. And it's a great way to end the conversation because we have that connection with kids. Kenny, can't thank you enough for doing this today. Have an awesome summer, and certainly we'll be seeing you at the rink soon enough. But that is awesome job today.
All right, Kevin Gorg's a Pauly family favorite. My daughter Caroline in Pittsburgh loves you. My brother Kurt in Virginia loves you. So this has been fun. Thank you.
Good stuff. Folks, I'll be right back here on Wooden Sticks after a quick commercial break to put a bow on this week's edition of the show. All right, back for the final segment, and just thoroughly enjoyed chatting with Ken Pauly today and kind of going behind the curtain a little bit, hearing about high school hockey and kids, where they are now. Fun to go back in the time machine, go back to where it all started back in the 90s, but really enjoyed the conversation around 2012. Jack Jablonski's a dear friend of mine and an inspiration to a lot of us here in the hockey world, but specifically in this part of the world here in Minnesota. And he's going to do great things on the broadcast side, whether it's in print, whether it's at the rink, on TV, radio. He did a couple of games with Radio Joe O'Donnell and the great Tom Reed this past year on the Wild Radio Network. So sky's the limit for a guy like Jabs. He's incredibly knowledgeable. He has excellent passion for the game of hockey. And so really fun to have that walk through 2012 and how Ken Pauly and Benilde navigated that very difficult season on and off the ice. And it certainly had a happy ending, which makes it that much more special now. And just fun to connect about high school hockey and where we're at right now in 2026 as all these coaches now, and they get done with the school year and it's not even July 4th yet and they're already thinking about next year. I just love how the hockey season really never ends. So fun stuff as always. I mentioned at Gorgomatic 21. That's where you can ping me on social media. I would love any recommendations you have for the show, or if you have any people in your world, whether it's family or friends, that want to be a sponsor and hopefully have us help elevate their business. We would love to do that right here, whether you know somebody or maybe just have somebody we should connect with. We'd love that as well. And as always, we look forward to the next week. And as we get into the dog days of summer in July and into August, we're going to focus on certainly what the Wild are doing, but we're going to talk a little college hockey. We'll talk high school hockey. We'll talk PWHL. We lost a bunch of really not just great players, but great people. The latest being Katie Knoll, who was maybe one of my very favorites to talk to with the Minnesota Frost. So hoping to connect with some of those players through the expansion draft as they move on to different places. A bunch of those Frost players, I think, ended up in Vegas. So I am right now in the process of connecting with some of the PR folks with the Frost to have some of those ladies on and continue the hockey conversation all summer long. Thank you for listening. Hope you're having a great week, and we'll talk to you next week right here on Wooden Sticks.